Speaking of love, we're going to continue with our series. We've been talking about our series, like understanding what it looks like to love others. We've been going. This is almost 2 months. We're at number 7. All right. So we're at number 7. We're going to continue looking at 1 Corinthians 13:4. So if you want to go ahead and start opening up there. We've talked about a lot. If you haven't heard them, we're on YouTube. So go ahead and hear them. A lot of them are building on each other. So go ahead and log on to there and hear us. And just be filled. But we're going to continue with our message. This one's called "Love Does Not Envy, Boast, and Is Not Proud." Okay, 1 Corinthians 13:4. Okay, you guys have it? Let me see your Bibles, iPhones, iPads, or the screen. That works too. For the last couple of weeks, we've been looking at what love is. Okay, the Apostle Paul has been telling us that love is patient. Remember that? Love is patient, love is long-suffering, and also love is kind. So we've been looking at that. But today, we're going to look at what love is not. The Apostle Paul, after he says love is patient, love is kind, he gives us 3 things that love is not. So in 1 Corinthians 13:4, after love is patient, love is kind, it continues. And Apostle Paul says, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. Okay, so the Apostle Paul says that love doesn't envy or boast, and that it's not proud. So it's important that we understand. We look at each word, we look at each one of these things, that we understand what they are, so that we won't do them, right? Because if we want to love, if we want to be loving, we got to understand what we shouldn't be doing as well, right? Make sense? Okay, so we're going to look at each word real quick. I'm going to give you a brief. I'm going to go back to elementary school, do some definitions, and then we're going to get into it. So envy, okay? I think it's up there. Envy is, looking it up on the dictionary, Wikipedia, it works, is to be jealous. So envy is defined as to be jealous. Another definition is a feeling of discontent or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. And jealous is feeling or showing envy of someone or their achievements and advantages. All right, so you guys kind of understand what envy is? Have you guys heard what envy is before? All right, a few of you. All right, so envy is that. Okay, we're gonna go back through them right now. But boasting is synonymous with brags. Like you're bragging about yourself, you're boasting about yourself, you're showing off. But when you're boasting, you're bragging. Okay, so boasting is defined as talk with excessive pride and self-satisfaction about one's achievements, possessions, or abilities. So it's a show-off who needs like a lot of attention. That's what 1 Corinthians is referring to. A show-off that needs a lot of attention. And then proud is like puffed up. It's arrogant or proud. Well, it's proud. So arrogant. That's defined as having or revealing an exaggerated sense of one's own importance or abilities. Other versions say that love is not conceited. So, and conceited is defined as excessively proud of oneself. It's like vain. It's like looking in the mirror all day and like, hey, you look good. It's kind of like thinking very, very, very highly of yourself to a point that is excessive. So those are the 3 things that he says we shouldn't do. I hope you guys kind of understand. We're going to go through them right now to kind of look at how it relates to our spiritual walk. But then envy is a feeling that is caused by one wanting something really, really bad, wanting something that someone else has. Has anyone ever felt envy or jealous, kind of wanted something that someone else had? All right. Come on, okay, wake up. Well, you guys are awake. So, envy is not something that we're strangers to. It's not something that's hard to understand. But we got to understand that envy also is not something that we can just say, oh, well, to. It's just like, oh, I wanted the front seat, but oh well, like it's not something that simple. When the Apostle Paul is referring to it, he's meaning something. Envy is much stronger. It's like a really, really strong desire. It's something that you want because you see that someone else has it. You kind of like want it so bad that it causes some pain. Like, oh, I wish that was mine, or oh, I wish I could do that. I could be that. I could have that. Quick examples of envy. Envy could arouse perhaps a sibling gets recognition for something. Like a lot of us have siblings that do stuff really, really well that we can't do. Like Erica is amazing at the instruments. I mean, she's picked up every instrument, and to be envious is like, oh, like I want that. Like why her? Like God, why her? Why not me? It's just that gets to you. So perhaps some of us have some siblings or some friends that we just look at them and like, oh, like. Why them? Why not me? Envy, another example, could be like in a relationship, perhaps someone else got the guy or someone else got the girl, or there's this girl or guy that you want but you can't have. So something like that, and it just causes pain, it causes hurt. So that's something along the lines of envy, or just something in general, envying someone else's life. Like we look at people on TV, we look at people in our schools, in our jobs, and in our families, and we're like in our church, and we're like, man, I wish I could be him. Man, I wish I could have that. Man, I wish I could be there. And to a point where it starts hurting. It's like I suck. Like why not me? And we're like lifting them up and lifting them up. So these are quick, brief examples of envy. Just little examples in our daily lives that it is very important for us not to be envious in these kind of situations. Because of what they lead to, like for example, the sibling relationship, it could lead to harsh words, like I tell her, like I wish you weren't in my family or something like that. Like relationships, it could lead to like a loss of a relationship, loss of friends, and when you're envying someone else's life, it could lead to ignoring your own self-worth. So these are some things in life that people are envious about, but we also got to consider these things. These things are natural in life, but we got to make sure we're not envious of that. But I want to gear our conversation, or I guess it's not a conversation if I'm the only one talking, but I want to gear this talk mostly to what the Apostle Paul is referring to in this story. So I said all those things because I didn't want to ignore them. I didn't just want to skip by them. It is very important for us to identify areas in our lives where we're envious. But the Apostle Paul is referring to more our Christian life, our spiritual life. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So the Apostle Paul, when he's saying love is patient, love is kind, but then he says love does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. We gotta, in order to understand what he's saying, we gotta understand the context of this verse. In 1 Corinthians 12, right before that, so we're in 1 Corinthians 13. In 1 Corinthians 12, that whole chapter, he's talking about the church being one body. Okay, he's talking about the different parts of the body. He's talking about that there's different spiritual gifts. He's saying that people prophesy, people have the gifts of tongues, people have the gift of knowledge, like being like wisdom and really being able to interpret the scriptures. He's talking about people having the gifts of healing and doing miracles. So he's referring to that. And he's talking about the body. He's saying that the body has all these different parts, but all of these different parts make up the same body. They make up one body. They make up the church. And he's writing this letter to the Corinthians because what they were doing in that time, they were arguing, they were envying, they were boasting, they were being proud over the spiritual stuff. Like the prophets were like, oh, I'm a prophet, I prophesy. The people speaking in tongues, they were speaking in tongues and bashing on the people who did it. The people who worked miracles were like, watch this, and they, someone was healed. So it's cool that in that church, there was a lot of spiritual gifts going around. There was a lot of spiritual activity. That's cool. That's how I wanted to be in this group where we're just flowing in the Spirit. But Paul is warning us that when we start moving in that direction, we got to be really careful to realize that we are one body. The body has different functions, different parts, but we are the same body. You shouldn't be boasting about what you have, or you shouldn't be envying what other people have. So the Apostle Paul was teaching them that no one was better than another person, and that whatever gifts they did have or wanted, if they were doing them without love, it was worth nothing. So that's the context right before we get into 1 Corinthians 13:4. He's talking about the body being one. The spiritual gifts are all important. And he's saying if you do any of these without love, they're worth nothing. So that's why we're doing this series. So then the Apostle Paul then is telling them, so I don't want you to envy the other people's spiritual gifts. I don't want you to boast about your own. I don't want you to be proud of the ones you have. Let me find the word. Hold up. Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. This is stemming from the conferences in Fresno. So I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I'm trying to deliver it in a way that's easy to understand. So the Apostle Paul is saying, don't envy spiritual gifts. Okay? He's telling the body of the church, don't envy someone else's spiritual gift. And then a question you may be asking, wait, so David, I'm not supposed to want those things? Like in the church, I see people moving. I see the worship leader up there. I see the pastor. I see people, praying for the sick and then getting healed. You're saying I shouldn't want those kind of things? Is that what the Apostle Paul is saying? And that's not what he's saying. That's not what I'm saying. Because in 1 Corinthians 12:31, Apostle Paul says, eagerly desire the gifts, the greater gifts. Okay? So, I want us to understand that there's a difference between envying spiritual gifts and desiring spiritual gifts. Okay? They're not the same. They're two different things. When you desire something, it's good. When you're desiring a spiritual gift, it's good because it's pushing you to be closer to God. Okay? You're desiring something, you're asking God for something, you're trying to get a spiritual gift to be used by God. Envy, the difference, the way I think it makes most sense to explain it is that envy leads us to focus only on the gift, not the person who we get the gift from. So desire focuses on being used by God, and envy focuses on the gift itself. Okay, so to try to explain this a little bit better, I'm going to start giving you a personal story. Again, Fresno was awesome. Beautiful. There was this man, multiple men, that traveled the world, and I've seen videos. I talked to them. I was there. Erica was there. They just went to Walmart. It was called a little treasure hunt. You put some names on a paper. You pray. And you put some names on a paper, some things, and you go around looking for these people. So they went to Walmart, and they actually found 5. They found 5 people, prayed for them. There was this lady in the aisle to get medicine for her allergies. So they just approached her, with love, and hey, are you sick? What's going on? Can we pray for you? They prayed for her. She was healed. She didn't buy the medicine. She went home. So this was awesome. This was beautiful. These men, very powerful men of God. I'm like, wow. I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to be able to flow in the Spirit, move in the Spirit. How many of us, if the Bible talks about the gift of healing, the Bible talks about that it's possible to pray for someone and then to be healed. In the name of Jesus. How many of us would want that? Let me see. All right, me too. That's why I went to the conference. That's why we went. I raised my hand first. So the conference was good, really, really good. I've seen these people, when people are getting prayed, for. I hear these crazy stories. They went to an ER room, an emergency room, just walked in and prayed for every single person in that room. Not everyone got healed, but a lot of people did get healed. Some lady with some lung disease, something like that, just walked out. And then even after the conference, I'm reading Facebook posts about testimonies about that weekend. Powerful weekend. And then I'm like, it's in my head. It's been in my head. And I think even Jerry's maybe seen me see some of the dude's videos of him praying for people, and people are healed, like legs growing out. So things like that. And that's been in my head. That's been in my heart. This spiritual gift has been in my heart. Wanting it. But up until I think last night, as I was continuing to work on the message, something clicked. Before that, I was envying. I wanted this. I wanted what he had. I wanted the spiritual gift. I wanted to have the gift of healing. The way I know I was envying was because I was, instead of going to the Bible, instead of reading all these verses, I was YouTubing, reading his autobiography, looking at the way he does, looking at these words, looking at what he says. I was looking at him. I was envying the gift that he had. And as I was preparing this message, I was like, God, what does love doesn't envy? And what does that mean? All of a sudden I started to understand, this is what it means. You're envying his gift. You're envying what he's able to do, instead of desiring it. The difference between desiring is that you want it. This is the way I'm explaining, that I want it, but I know where it comes from. I know the root. I'm focusing on God, and these spiritual gifts are a result of that. Let me read John 15, and then I'm going to explain it a little bit better. Is it up there, John 15? John 15:4, it says, remain in me. Some verses say, abide in me. Remain in me, abide in me, as I also abide in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branch. If you remain in me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I'm going to read it one more time. I just want you guys to really focus on this. Remain in me, as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear fruit. But apart from me, you can do nothing. So today's message is very simple, but I think it's very powerful if we understand. This what Jesus is telling us is we need to remain in him. Be connected to him. He's the branch. He's the branch. We are the vine, and the fruit comes from the vine, but only if it's connected to the branch. See, what I was doing, I was just trying to figure out how to get the fruit without being connected to the vine. I was trying to figure out how to do this, how to speak in tongues, how to prophesy, how to have the gift of healing. I was trying to figure out how to do all this. I was trying to figure out how to do this without being connected to the vine. I was forgetting. It was saying, apart from me, you can do nothing. Right before that it says, but if you remain in me and I in you, you will bear fruit. You see, remaining in God, being in God, you will bear fruit. He says it, you will bear fruit. Abiding, remaining, what that means is it's growing in relationship with God, being in his Word, being in prayer, staying connected with Him. Last week we talked about like kind of relationships, like a guy or a girl. If a guy says, "Oh, I love you," but he never talks to her, he's not with her. They're not together. They're not gonna grow. Like it's similar here with God. If we want to remain in Him, if we want to be in Him, if we want to grow in Him, we need to spend time in prayer. We need to spend time in His Word. Because without that, there will be no fruit. How many of you guys want to do something in the ministry? You see your hands. Or David, you're already doing something in the ministry, so I won't blame you for not raising your hand. Whether you're doing something or not, the majority of us, I would say almost all of us, want to do something in the ministry. Myself, I want to continue to do worship. I want to continue to be up here speaking. See, a lot of us, we look at these people on stage. We look at these people on TV, these famous preachers, these famous artists, and we're like, you know, I wish I could do that. I want that. I want that. I want that. I want to be the rock star band. I want to be this preacher. I want to be able to have an amazing kids group that we see in Joe Osteen or whatever. I want to do this. I want to do that. Like, this is the great model. This is the great example. I want to pray for people and then be healed. I want to flow in tongues. I want to do so much. I want to sing. I want to play the piano. Like, I want to do so much. Okay? Whatever you raise your hand for, I fill that in right now. So we're saying we want this, we want this, we want this, we want this. But we're forgetting one key thing. Apart from me, you can't do nothing. There'll be no fruit. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in the way it should happen. You see, I could go every day without reading the Bible, every day without reading His Word, every day, and they'll still let me sing on Sundays. They'll still let me talk here because they don't know, they won't know. I could pretend, but I won't be producing any fruit. I'll just be going through the motion. I've seen it in my life. Some weeks where I'm too busy, too tired, and I say, I won't read the Bible this week, or I won't pray this week. Then on Sunday, like, I feel it, like I'm just singing words, as opposed to singing in the Spirit, feeling the Spirit. Because apart from Him, I can't do nothing. I can't do anything. We forget that. We forget that. We forget that. Okay? It's not just about going through the motions. It's not just about having this ministry. If you want to produce fruit, and if you don't want to produce fruit, you're just wasting your time. If you don't want to produce fruit, then you're doing what Apostle Paul says, don't boast. Because that's the only reason you're in it. Don't boast. You're in it so you can say, I'm in the band. You're in it so you can say, I'm the preacher. You're in it so I can say, I'm the singer. Or I'm I pray. Just so you could boast. If you're not doing it to seek fruit, you're wasting your time. I'm not saying to stop doing it. I want to help you realize, just like God helped me realize today, in order to produce fruit, you need to remain in the vine. You need to be in Him. If you want something in the ministry, it has to start with your relationship with God. A lot of times we try to go around it. A lot of times we say, okay, I'm going to get first to the stage. I'm going to start preaching first. I'm going to start singing first. I'm going to start playing first. And then I'm going to give glory to God. You know, and then I'm going to start seeking Him. First I'm going to get the job. First I'm going to do this. First I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to say, okay, now I have time to seek God. And I say that because that happens to me. That has happened to me. And that was starting to happen to me again this week. It needs to start with our relationship with God. Are you guys getting what I'm saying? Okay, it needs to start there. He is the branch, okay? The tree is God. The branch is Jesus. Like, He's our connection to that tree. That's where we receive our life. And we're the vine. We're the little thing right there with the leaf that produces the fruit. I don't know what kind of fruit you guys produce. Strawberries. Is that a fruit? Watermelon? I don't know what kind of fruits there are, but I don't know what kind of fruits you guys produce, but they're all different. But it can't happen unless you're connected to the vine. Yes, you may be in ministry now. You may be doing something in the ministry now. You may be going through the motions. But take a step back and look, is there fruit? And if it's no, or if it's yes, take another step back and say, well, am I connected to the vine? Am I connected to God? It's not you wasting your time. It's not you just going through the motions. You guys, there's it in Matthew 7. I don't know if I have it on PowerPoint, so I'll just read it. In Matthew 7, it gives an illustration about people at the end of time, they come before God. And this is what they say. This is what Jesus says. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not drive out demons and perform many miracles? So Jesus is saying that in the end, people are going to be saying, wait, God, I sang every Sunday at Covina Assembly of God. I was preaching every Friday in Covina Assembly of God. God, I was singing, I was praying, I was teaching the kids, I was taking care of the ministry. And if I'm calling you out, it's because, I'm sorry, that's nothing else I know, so I'm sorry for this. But, so all these things, like I was taking care of the kids, I was doing talento, I was singing, I was in the music group, I was doing all these things, God. That's what this verse is saying. Look what the response is. Then I would tell them plainly, like straight up, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. God, how does that make sense? These are people who were prophesying. These are people who were praying in your name, and people were being healed. Things were happening. But you're going to say, I never knew you? Depart from me, you evildoers? How does that make sense? I was in the ministry, God. I did these things for you. See, the key, he doesn't say, no, it's because you didn't do enough of them, you didn't heal enough people, you didn't sing in key, you didn't play the right songs. He doesn't say any of that. He says, I never knew you. I never knew you. Depart from me. That's what I want us to go home today with. Understanding. It starts with being connected to the vine. Because anything else doesn't matter. Just as he says, if you prophesy, if you do miracles, if you do all these things without love, it's worth nothing. Who is love? God. So if you do all these things in ministry without God, without being connected to God, God is love. And if you do things without love, they're worth nothing. So if you're not connected to love, if you're not connected to God, it's worth nothing. At the end of times, I don't want God to say to you, depart from me, I never knew you. I don't want him to say that to me. And I was getting into it again this week. I was envying. I thought I was desiring. I thought it was, God, it's for your glory. I want to heal people. But the way I was going about it, I was envying. I was saying, I want that gift. I want that. And I was looking at all these articles, like, how can I do it? What is he saying? What is he doing? He's going like this, he's going like this, he's going like this. Like, I was trying to learn the technique, and it's not like that. It's being connected to God. Being connected to the vine. Does that make sense? Because without it, it's worth nothing. Now, I'm not saying, don't interpret me wrong, because then the pastor's going to be wondering, why is no one serving anymore? Like, I'm not saying don't serve. I'm not saying don't desire these things. That's what the Apostle Paul says. Desire the greater gifts. Desire. Go after them. But desire. Don't like envy. Because when you envy, it's just like, I want that. I'm going after his or her gift, his or her ministry. It's not like, oh, no, I really want that. How can I go about getting that? How can I go about that, becoming this? And then being connected to God. I'm not saying don't desire. I'm saying desire, but understand that it starts with being connected to God. If you're already in ministry, if you're already doing something and you don't see any fruit, or even if you do, take a step back and assess, am I connected to God? How much am I connected to God? Because trust me guys, when we connect ourselves to God, the fruit will happen. It says you will produce much fruit. If you remain in me and I in you, you will produce much fruit. It's saying you will. It's a guarantee, it's a promise. And not only some, little apples or something. It's saying much fruit. Do watermelon grow on trees?
No.
I don't know. I should have my intelligence. But sorry. But anyway, big fruit. That's what I was trying to get. Big fruit. You will produce much of it. Don't envy. Don't envy. Don't envy. Don't envy. Desire. Be connected to fruit. When he says being boastful, I'm proud, don't boast, I'm proud. All right, so now I'm connected to the vine. Now I'm in my ministry. I'm connected to the vine, I'm sure. I'm producing much fruit. When I'm singing these songs, I see people, getting into it. When I'm preaching, I see people not falling asleep, so that's the fruit in itself. So I'm seeing these things. I'm like, all right. But then there's a couple more things. He says, don't boast. Don't be proud, don't be arrogant, don't be conceited. Jesus was the most humble about it. I mean, he was the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He went around washing people's feet, hanging out with the people that no one else wanted to hang out with. He understood his power, but he wasn't conceited about it. The Apostle Paul warns us about being boastful and conceited. Don't boast, don't be proud, don't be arrogant. Let me give you a little story. How many of us were at the how many of us were at the beach, the bonfire? We got some next to us. Can you see? All right, I love you guys. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So we were all there. We all we'll talk about it a little bit. So what happened? We were in the bonfire. We were enjoying it. It was cool. It was good. People next to us were drinking a lot too much. They came over, sang happy birthday to someone. It wasn't even their birthday. It was all right. It was cool. It was fun. Started, using some foul language. We asked them to not do that. Then they started ridiculing us and using even more. They went back and they were saying F this, F that, F God, F this, F that. So they were going back, and then they came back and started asking some more questions and just being annoying and being really rude. And the whole time I'm like this, just like looking. But it's like, how do you respond? How do you respond and love God to this? Like, how do you get through this? So we ended up leaving. I was talking to one of the girls to the side while the other girl was still talking to the group and going off. So we ended up leaving early. Kind of talked about what to eat and we forgot about it. When we come into situations like that, when we're with non-Christians or even Christians, when we come into situations like that, and then we respond in a mature way, we could say we respond in a better way, like we were the ones, all right, sorry, we left. When we respond in the appropriate way, as close as they could get, in the mature way, do we then take a step back and look at ourselves and say, good job, David, you did it, you're a great Christian, way to go, you're more loving than they are, you're going to go to heaven, and they're going to go to hell. Do we boast in the way we live? Do we think we're better than people? Because we have God. Yes, we have God. It's awesome. It's good. But do we live in a way that we can't tolerate people without it. That we can't be around people without God. That we can't, that when we perhaps respond better, we're boasting, we're like, look at me, look at what I did, I'm so proud of myself. Look, I'm a better Christian because I didn't cuss them out. In situations like this, we just got to be real careful not to lift ourselves up as Christians and say, "Ooh, look at me," because that's not loving. That's not loving. Look at me. I responded great. I did this, I did that. I didn't do this, I didn't do that. That's not loving. That's not Christian. That's what the Apostle Paul is warning against. He says, 1 Corinthians 1:30, it says, "It is because of Him that you are in Christ Jesus, who has become for us wisdom from God." So now he's going to describe what that wisdom is. That is our righteousness, our holiness, our redemption. Therefore, as it is written, let the one who boasts, boast in the Lord. The only way you can boast, the only exception, the only way you are allowed to boast is to boast in the Lord, because it is because of Him that you are righteous. It is because of Him that you are holy. It is because of Him that you have redemption. Without Him, you're nothing. So when we're treating people as if my title, my Christianity, we're better than this kind of person, when we can't even approach a person, when we look at someone and mad dog them, or whatever we do, we treat them like less. Whether they're Christian, not Christian, however, when we treat someone like less, you guys, that's not loving at all. Because without God, without what He has done, without Jesus, you're nothing. I'm nothing. It is only in Him that you are holy, righteous, and you have redemption. So when we interact with people who don't necessarily have our morals or are led by the Spirit, we just got to be really careful on how we come off to people. Because if we're coming off as like, oh, snotty Christians, like, oh, Mr. Holy Roller or whatever, that's not loving. That's not a good image to have of God. The only reason I'm worth something is because of Jesus Christ and what He's done in me. That doesn't make anybody less around me. So we just got to remember that. I want everyone to hear that when we interact with people, all right, we don't treat them as less. Oh, they got a lip ring. Oh, they got 3 earrings. Oh, they got a big tattoo on their face. Oh, they got a tear. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, this, oh, that, oh, this, oh, that. I've come across too many Christians growing up that disrespect other people because of their appearance, because of the way they look, their hairstyle that they have, the shoes, or whatever. Especially in schools, it happens. We got to understand that we can't boast. We are not better than anyone. The only reason you have some value and I have some value is because of Jesus Christ. It's because of Him that we're righteous, that we're holy, and that we have redemption. So don't treat anyone less as less. And if they don't have Jesus Christ, that's your opportunity for you to present them with it. Don't treat them as less, but love on them so they can get to know Him. Does that make sense? Okay. I want the worship team to come up real quick. We'll do a brief outro. Envy. Because we gotta start in the right place. Our lives We need to represent Christ. Our lives, with our lives, we need to seek Christ and Christ alone. And the rest is going to follow. The ministry is going to follow. Everything else is going to follow. The Bible says, seek first the kingdom of God, and then all these things that we need in life, food, shelter, money, all these things are going to follow. It's going to come. Start with the vine. Start connected to the vine. I know today I was kind of all over the place because again, I'm trying to wrap my head around this stuff because it's week 1 of me trying to realize, or it's like day 2. It was this week where I was like, envy. I want him. I want to be like him. I want to do that. I want to do what he does. It's not wrong to want to be able to go and pray for people and them to be healed. But I was skipping the most important step. The only way it's going to really happen. And that's being connected to the vine. Connected to Jesus Christ. And then I will produce much fruit. I will be able to pray for people and they'll be healed. I believe it. And I want you to believe that in your ministry, whatever you're doing, whatever you want to do, when you're connected to God, when you're abiding in Him, when you're remaining in Him, then you're going to produce fruit. Abide, remain. The way that looks is spending time with Him. It's being in your Word. How important it is to spend time in prayer. And I want to challenge you, not just these 30-second prayers before you eat. I mean, keep those. These prayers in the morning or right before you're driving. God, don't let me get in a car accident. Keep those, okay? Keep them. I do them all the time. That's why my car is still going. But keep those things. But I want to challenge you, get into a lifestyle of having long amounts of prayer. Start maybe just one time a week. More than 15 minutes. I would even say more than a half hour because it takes time to just wash away or forget about the things of the day. It takes time to just sit. I'm telling you guys from my experience. I got a ton of things to do and it takes time just to sit with music and listen and just let the Spirit, as the song says, overtake my heart. That's what it looks like to abide in Him. And I know a lot of us right here are doing ministries. We got the kids ministries. We got teaching classes right here. With the youth. We got a lot of people doing ministries. And a lot of people who want to do ministry. And that's awesome. I don't want you to walk out of here with that, yanked out of your heart. No, I want you to go and desire even more. But know where it starts. And people who are doing ministry now, including myself, I'll say it straight up. If you're not connected to the vine, nothing's going to happen. It's not worth anything. Even if it's just little kids changing their diapers, there's fruit in when you speak to them. Even if it's the younger kids, you're making them do push-ups or whatever you do and they don't behave. When you're connected to the vine, there's just the Spirit is moving more powerful. When you go out and pray for people, connected to the vine, you will produce fruit then. If you're not connected to the vine, apart from me, you can't.